So welcome. Thank you so much for giving us your time this evening. You are here, hopefully you're in the right place, for a 10 to 2 hosted webinar on the mindset for your job search. So getting in the right mindset for your job search. We at 10 to 2, as hopefully you all know, are experts in flexible working and part-time recruitment. And often our webinars have quite a kind of practicals of job search slant. However, tonight we are joined by the lovely Debbie Denyer, who has got vast experience in executive team and career change coaching, around 15 years experience behind her. And she is going to talk to us about making sure you're in the right mindset. So making sure you're in the right position within your mindset to make your job search as much of a success as possible. We do run other webinars on more practical elements of the job search, and there will be some coming out later on this year, so keep your eye out for those. For those who don't know me, I am Jo Gregory. I'm one of the directors at 10 to 2. Been working with 10 to 2 for around 9 years now, and as I said, I can see some names that I recognise popping up in the guest log, so please do say hello. A few practicals. We are hoping for around a 40-minute session, including questions this evening, so that you can all scurry off for your 9 o'clock TV. There is a Q&A box. If you hover around the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A box. That Q&A box is completely confidential, and that is how we communicate with one another this evening. So if you do have any questions for Debbie or for me, please do pop them in the Q&A. There are a couple of sections in Debbie's presentation that are interactive, and we'll also be using the Q&A box to ask you for your responses for those sections. As I said, it is confidential, so not everybody will be able to see your responses. Only Debbie and I will be able to see them. It would be useful if you have a pen and paper. However, if you don't worry, you don't need to go and get one. We will be following up with an email tomorrow and a recording of tonight's session so that you can listen back at your leisure. And I think that's probably it. So I'm going to hand over to you, Debbie.
Perfect. Thanks very much. So I am going to share my screen. So let's just make sure that the technology bit works. So we didn't even practice this bit beforehand, did we?
Didn't. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Screen.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Right, so let's just move my head out of the way as well. Right, okay. So as we said, it's about managing your job search mindset. And I work with people who are quite often in career transition, and they're quite often leaving a previous role, moving into a new role, or their post may have been made redundant. They may have been out of the workforce for a period of time. Or they're in a role and they have got to a point where they're thinking maybe this isn't quite the right fit for me. So that's some of the stuff that I do quite often, and quite often that relates to kind of how they manage their mindset in that transition process. So what we are going to cover tonight, what your mindset is and how to manage it, building motivation and increasing resilience. So we said this was going to be interactive. So this is your point to join in. So can you finish this sentence for me? The job search journey is. So tell me about how you feel the job search journey is, and drop that into the chat.
Oh, everybody's very ready to talk. Oh, we've got some great ones. A bumpy road, exhausting, too long, relentless, stressful, roller coaster. Bang on. I think somebody's just nicked your word. Scary, soul destroying. Oh my goodness. Tedious. We're getting a lot of repeats here, so there's lots and lots of the same theme.
Yeah.
Not very many positive words, I've got to say. That it's edging on negative. Yeah.
And I mean, one of the messages there is that you're not alone. So, you know, other people are feeling the same way as you, and that's something to be aware of. You know, it is tough. It is really tough. So something here based on the kind of change curve, but thinking about it from the perspective of job change. So if you were in a position previously and your post had been made redundant, you might go through a bit of a denial about, bury your head in the sand, this isn't happening. Then you might go through complete and utter shock. You might progress to anger, where it's like, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. And then you might move to bargaining, where you're saying, well, what if I did this? What if I, changed the way in which I worked? What if I did this, that, and the other? And trying to kind of bargain your way through the situation. You might then move into depression. And then gradually you might move to a state of understanding, and finally to acceptance. And you might move up and down that curve. So you might go backwards and forwards. And the speed that we go through that change curve is different for each different person, and for each different person's circumstances, what's happened to them before in terms of change, their personal circumstances in terms of their finances and that kind of thing. So for each individual person, that curve can be quite different. And how you're treated within that process. So if actually your organisation were really good about explaining why this needed to happen, and they got your buy-in, and they took you on that journey with them, then that might speed up your process of going through this kind of change curve. But partly it's about recognizing that we go through this, somebody mentioned roller coaster, we go through all these emotions, and we keep going through those emotions through the job search journey as well, when we go through the kind of, applying for a role, seeing yourself in it, and then getting a knockback as well. So what is mindset? So your mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world and yourself. And it influences how you think, feel, and behave in any given situation. So some words here. So our words that we use can tell us quite a lot. So somebody said it's it's a roller coaster. Somebody said it's a long, bumpy road. So those words are telling you about your mindset in relation to the job search journey. So words that clients have used before are things like, I feel like I'm going around in circles. Can't see a way through, just going around in circles. I feel like I've hit a brick wall. I don't know which direction to turn, and that in itself is exhausting. If you're scrolling through lots and lots of job adverts and you don't know which one to apply for, and which route is best for you in terms of your skills, that kind of process is just really exhausting going through that. The emotional roller coaster, the ups and downs of the job search journey. So from the point of finding an organisation that you think, yes, I want to work for them. You look at the advert, you do your research on the company, you start to imagine yourself working there. You might even speak to people that work there and find out what it's like. And you really start to kind of begin to think, oh, this is what my life could be like if I was working there. And then you don't hear back from your application, or you do hear back from your application, but you don't hear back from the interview, or you get through the interview, but then you get pipped at the post later on. And so there's this up and down and up and down, and you get quite emotionally invested in particular roles. And it can be really, really hard to bring yourself back up from that. So going back to those words then, so the words can also give us some clues as to how we can maybe try and think about things a little bit differently. So if you're thinking, I'm going around in circles, part of that is about thinking, well, how can I step back from that? How can I see the bigger picture and different opportunities, different routes that I could take? And that might be about talking to a friend, it might be about talking to a coach, talking to the team at Ten2Two, and trying to see the bigger pictures, trying to see a different way in which you might be able to approach that situation. If you feel like you've hit a brick wall, it could be about, well, how can you put some doors in that brick wall? And so I mentioned kind of reaching out to people who work within an organisation to find out about, what's it like to work there, and also, are there any people that they might be able to connect you to? So, finding other ways to network your way into organisations, find other routes to get to where you need to get to. If you're feeling like you don't know which way to turn, then that can tell you that you need to, really focus down on what are the kind of pros and the cons of each different route. And so that then you haven't got that noise, that you've got much more clarity, and doing things like working out for you, what's important to you, what's important in terms of the strengths that you might be using within a role, what's important in terms of the location, the salary, the values of the organisation, the size of the team, the kinds of tasks that you might be doing, using all of those things to create a kind of a criteria, really, that you can then use to assess different opportunities against, to move some of that noise away and make things a bit clearer for you. And then this emotional roller coaster, this up and down. So trying to take some of the bumps out of that roller coaster, recognizing that actually there are ups and downs in the job search process, that you can't really get rid of the ups and downs, unfortunately, but what you can do is be aware of them, be prepared for those ups and downs. And so that's about things like celebrating the steps that you're making along the way, recognizing that it's progress, it's all progress, it's all learning, and also being ready for some of the downs. What can you do to help you if you're feeling like things are really tough? What are the things that you enjoy? Could it be that you go and go out with some friends when you're waiting for a response from someone, or that you're going to get a response either way, celebrate or commiserate kind of thing? What is it that you can do to kind of really manage the ups and downs for you personally? Is it that it's about going and buying yourself a bar of chocolate, or going out for a walk, or whatever that is for you, that helps you to kind of recognize when things are going to be tough and coping with that? But really celebrating those little successes along the way. So celebrating the fact that you've reached out to X amount of people today, celebrating the fact that you've got your CV into a good state, celebrating that you've identified a target list of companies. All of those things are really important steps that are helping you to get to where you want to get to. So choice. So you don't have control over all the circumstances in your life, but you do have the power to choose how you view them. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my story. So this is my husband, Mark, and my daughter, Chloe. And in this photo here, it was Father's Day, and we had gone down to Brighton because he had decided to cycle the London to Brighton bike ride for charity. And so Chloe and I had gone to meet him at the end of the route, and it was our first time being away from home with a small baby, and we were really excited about it. And she's actually wearing a t-shirt that says "Best Daddy in the world." So he was fit, he was healthy. We had this kind of future ahead of us. 4 weeks after this photo was taken, he died. He was 40 years old, and my daughter was 5 months old. So my whole world changed overnight. All the hopes and the dreams that we'd had, all the things that we'd thought about, talked about, him seeing her learn to crawl, learn to walk, learn to ride a bike, have her first boyfriend. Thankfully, he missed that. But, all of those things, that future that we had imagined together, just disappeared. And I went through the kind of range of different emotions. So my thoughts were, I can't believe he's gone. It's not fair. I had plans for the future. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? I can't do this. And I felt shock. I was in denial. I felt angry. I felt really quite cheated. And I felt depressed and overwhelmed. I'd got this baby girl and I was on my own looking after her. And so in terms of my actions, I started going to bed really late because I didn't want to wake up. Because if I woke up, then I would realize that he wasn't there and he wasn't coming back. I stopped eating because what was the point in cooking for me? I stopped exercising and I stopped meeting other people because the only conversation in my head was my husband's dead and he's not coming back. And so if you go back to what I was saying before about mindset, your thoughts affect your feelings and your feelings affect your actions. And I felt like I was in a long, dark tunnel with no light. And I spoke to somebody about it, and their question to me was, how can you put light in your tunnel? And so I then decided that what I needed to do was to set myself a goal. I decided he died very suddenly from a very aggressive form of cancer that we hadn't known about at all. And so I decided that I was going to do a race to raise money for cancer research. And so because I was doing exercise for this race, I was starting to do exercise again. I was starting to eat healthily again. And I realized that I also needed to see people, that actually for me, I get my energy and buzz from people. And so for me, that was a sort of coping mechanism. And it didn't really matter if I had nothing to say. I was still seeing people, and those people wanted to see me. They wanted to support me. So I started putting these windows in my tunnel and thinking about what were the things that I needed to do so that my thoughts affected my feelings in the right way, and that affected my actions in the right way. So what I said to myself was, how do I want to feel about my future? And what thoughts do I need to remind myself to create that feeling? And what actions do I need to take? So it was a very conscious choice about how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to act. And so that relates to job search in that it's all about your mindset. So you can ask yourself, how do I want to feel about my job search? So moving from that tiring, exhausting, bumpy road, how do you want to feel about it? And then what thoughts do you need to remind yourself of to create that feeling? And what actions do you need to take? So scribble down for yourselves, or you can pop it in the chat about how you want to feel about your job search. So self-awareness. There's something called the ladder of inference, which basically means that our ways that our lovely brains work for us is that we observe data and experiences, and then we select data from what we've observed, and we add meanings to that data. And then we make assumptions based on the meanings, and we draw conclusions, and then we adopt beliefs about the world, and we then take actions based on those beliefs. And if you remember at the start when we were talking about mindset, we were talking also about this kind of set of beliefs that influences that. So if you're thinking about that from the job search perspective, it might be that the fact is that you haven't got the job. You've been for an interview and you didn't get the job. But you'll kind of go, oh, well, what I observed was that I noticed that that interviewer didn't nod and smile when I was talking. And so that means that they didn't think that I was good enough or experienced enough. And I assume that the other candidate must have been more experienced. And everyone else applying for these roles has X years experience or X qualification. And so I don't believe that there's any point in me applying for this type of role. And so you stop applying for roles. So you see there where it's gone, and you've selected that information that has supported the belief that you've got. And you will keep going through that cycle where you will keep looking, your brain, not intentionally from your part, but your brain will keep looking for that information that backs up that belief and makes that belief stronger and stronger and stronger. And so we can reverse that process by working our way back down the ladder and trying to think about, well, what are the facts of the situation here? What information have I got that I can work on? Is there another explanation for this? Is there any other information that maybe I'm discounting? And using that to kind of widen your understanding. And also asking for feedback as well. I know you don't always get it. I know it's not an ideal world, but you know, asking for that feedback can help you with that. So my question for you in terms of your job search is, what are you assuming that is holding you back from your goal? So you can drop that into the chat as well if you want to.
People are feeling brave enough. You've stunned everybody into silence, Debbie. Here we go. Here we go. Confidence. I'm assuming a lack of confidence, a lack of experience. Good old imposter syndrome. I don't think anybody is immune to that, unfortunately. Questioning ability.
Yeah.
For age.
Yeah, and that the age one comes up a lot. And there is an age bias in recruitment. There definitely is an age bias in recruitment, but there are things that you can do around your mindset on that. So thinking about in terms of, you know, that I'm too old kind of mindset is thinking about, well, what does that age bring you? What does that bring you against somebody who's maybe younger? And what that brings you is experience, and experience quite often of having gone through lots of change. And so the resilience, the adaptability, the ability to recognize the impact of that on other people around you and on you, and learning from that moving forward. So it brings you all of that experience, which is, you know, fantastic experience that you can use in an organization. It also gives you a network. Just because of the nature of the fact that you've been alive for longer, you will know more people than somebody who is younger than you. And so your network is really key in terms of being able to find opportunities, and speaking to your network, not to ask for a job, but to speak to your network to say to them, you know, I'm particularly interested in getting into this area. You know, what are the key challenges within this area at the moment? It would be great to kind of have a chat, have a coffee, and talk through some of the key challenges that you can see at the moment. And then, you know, talking to them about this is kind of what I'm doing at the moment. This is what I'm kind of looking for. Is there anybody that you think it might be worth me connecting with? And would you be happy to connect me? And if every conversation you have, you can get 3 connections out of them, your web grows bigger and bigger and bigger. So seeing actually age as a positive, because age gives you experience, age gives you a network, and shifting your mindset and recognizing the value that you can bring to an employer because of your age, because of your experience. So one of the things you can do as well is kind of think about worst case scenarios. So I was coaching somebody the other day who was talking about the confidence thing, really, in terms of applying for a particular role and not maybe getting that role. And, you know, what happens if they don't get that role, that actually they'd kind of, again, could see themselves in it. They thought that this would make a really big difference to their life, and they'd started sort of imagining that. But recognizing that actually, if they didn't get the role, they would be no worse off than they were currently, because they would be in the same position that they were currently. But what they would have done is had gained the experience of having had that interview and had been in front of another group of people who might recommend them to somebody else, or who might see that maybe this isn't the right role for them, but maybe another one is. And so kind of doing well, what would happen if I didn't get this job? What would happen? And then if that happened, what would I do then? And if that happened, what would I do then? So trying to kind of work against the you know, fight, flight, fright, and work through those scenarios so that actually it seems less scary, and gives you the confidence to step out of your comfort zone and apply for that role, go for that interview. So finally, in terms of your mind, so having a healthy mind, there are a number of different factors that can support you to have a kind of healthy mind. And plotting them on a wheel helps you to visualize where you might need more focus. So if you have got a paper and pen handy, you can do this at the same time. If not, then obviously you can watch it back and do it then. So you just draw a wheel, and you mark 0 to 10 on the spokes of the wheel. 0 being, you're not focusing on that area. 10 being you're focusing on that area enough. And then what you do is you fill the wheel with different factors that support a healthy mind. And these are based on Dan Siegel's kind of work around what supports a healthy mind. So this first one here with these people arm in arm, this is about connecting with each other. And so as we know from COVID, when we couldn't see each other, actually not being able to connect to other people, not being able to see other people can have a really, really negative impact on your mindset. So that time connecting with people. This one here is called time in, so reflection. So things like journaling, things like, just spending a bit of time thinking back over past experiences, and reflecting on kind of what's going on and what you can learn from that. This one here, these people are laughing at each other. And this is something that we do lots as kids, and then we stop as adults. So, just having time to have fun and laugh and play. So making sure that you have playtime, and there's a whole load of people that do things like laughing yoga and that kind of thing. That's, it's been really proven, actually laughter has been really proven to be beneficial in terms of your mindset. Nutrition, we all know that is really important. Physical time, and that doesn't have to be going to the gym. It can be doing the hoovering, mowing the lawn. It could be, walking around the block. So any kind of physical movement that helps you. And then this one in the garden, this is downtime, and we are as a society notoriously bad at this now. Because as soon as we get a moment where we're sitting still, we get our phones out, we start scrolling. And so actually we're not having any downtime at all. We're not just doing nothing. And there's the part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the kind of executive functioning. So it's like the boss of your brain. It's really, really energy hungry. And so it needs some time to recover. And what you'll find is when you're feeling really overwhelmed, when you're really busy, you stop being able to think clearly. And that's because you're using up all of that resource, all that energy. And actually, if you go for a walk around the block and you come back to it, you'll probably be much more productive. So allowing that downtime. Sleep. I think probably a large proportion of you have children. I have children. I know how painful it is when you don't have sleep. I also have a partner that snores, which also adds to that. So sleep deprivation can really, really impact your mindset. And, things feel much more tough. Emotions are much higher when actually you've not had enough sleep, and you're exhausted. Everything just feels like the end of the world. So the importance of sleep. And then focus time. So we're not very good at multitasking, actually. We switch from task to task. So whilst we might think that we can multitask, what our brain is doing is it is doing one task, it's then having to switch to the next task, it's then having to switch to the next task. And that process of switching means that it's got to kind of work out, well, where are we now? What are we doing now? And so it's quite inefficient. And so, having all the tabs open, switching between one thing and another, is far less efficient than saying, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of time focusing on contacting recruiters. Obviously, you only want to contact one recruiter. I'm going to spend this amount of time focusing on researching target companies. I'm going to spend this amount of time, applying for jobs direct through job boards, and putting the work into blocks in that way. But also thinking about your energy and when you've got the most energy in the day and what kind of thing you might do at that time of day versus another time of day. So all of these things relate to having a healthy mindset. So what you do is you plot these into the wheel, and then you map where you're at now in terms of how much kind of time you're giving to each of those things, how much focus you're giving to each of those things. And you can base it on a week or a month. And so you plot where you're at now, and then you plot where you would like to be. And then what you do is you reflect on the small steps that would help to get you to where you want to be. So actually doing this can be really quite telling. And for me, when I did this, one of the things that came out of it for me was that I wasn't spending enough time laughing, for a start. And I wasn't spending enough time connecting with the people that I really cared about. And so I was, so focused on, doing, being busy and doing all the things that I needed to do, but I wasn't giving time for that. And that actually, like I said, for me, when I go and see people, I get my energy from people. I bounce ideas off of people. That's the thing that gives me energy. So not allowing enough time for that has a real impact on my mindset. So I'm conscious of time. So if you have had a moment to think about that, and there's something that you would like to focus on a bit further, you can pop that into the chat. Or if you've got one small step that you could take that would help you to get to where you want to be, you could pop that in the chat as well. An example for me in terms of the sleep thing is I am notoriously bad at, when I go to bed, I check my diary for the following day. And when I check my diary for the following day, I then decide that I'm going to check LinkedIn and I'm going to check Facebook. And then before you know it, it's an hour later than it was when I came up to go to bed. So, for me, things like leaving my phone downstairs or turning my phone off at nighttime or putting my phone in a drawer would all be things that would help me to get where I need to be in terms of sleep.
I think there are a lot of us that are guilty of that, Debbie. I do not think that you're alone at all. We've got one brave soul here has said that they need more focus time and more play time. Again, I can't imagine that you're alone on those. I'm absolutely a sucker for thinking that I can multitask and jumping from one thing to the next, and all of a sudden it's the end of the day and I haven't achieved the biggest thing on my to-do list that was the thing that would have required some real focus. So yeah, there are areas that all of us can work on, and I think that wheel is a really, really valuable tool that we could all take something from and use. Again, I think people are being a little bit shy. Oh no, we've got another one saying nutrition, eat better, not grabbing quick and easy rubbish when busy. Again, who's not guilty of that? I mean, really, as a society, I'm sure that we are all guilty of grabbing quick fast food rather than properly thinking about our nutrition.
Yeah, definitely.
Another one for focus time, more outdoor time and walks. Yeah, these are all really, really valuable things that we need to be thinking about and taking a holistic view to our mindset if we're hoping to be able to think more positively around our job search.
Yeah. And it's remembering those things. So it's remembering those things when you're having a really tough day, is kind of thinking, well, what was the thing on my wheel maybe I could do a bit more of, and I'll go and do that, and I'll come back to this, because you will be more productive if you do that. You will have a better mindset. And if you're going for interviews, what you want to be doing is showing up as being confident and being capable. And so going into it with the mindset of, I'm too old, or I'm not experienced enough, or whatever it is, then knocks your confidence. So using this as a tool when particularly when you're having a tough time and thinking, what could I do a bit more of that would help me? So
Absolutely.
finally, for me then, something that I used when my husband died was the question, what's good enough for today? And we are, again, not very good in terms of having self-compassion. And we're often better at thinking, you know, what would I say to a friend? Because actually, you know, we're not always great at looking after ourselves. So what's good enough for today was that recognition that sometimes, some days, just doing something really tiny is good enough. And just giving yourself that kindness. And it is still progress. So in summary, thinking about your words, what are your words telling you, the bumpy road, what's that telling you? How can you maybe reframe that slightly? The thoughts, the feelings, the actions, you know, how do you want to feel about your job search? What thoughts do you need to do that? And what actions do you need to take? Self-awareness, just this ladder of inference, being aware that your brain is looking for that data to back up that belief. So unpick that. And the worst case scenario, what would happen if? And then your healthy mind. So that's it. You are more than welcome to follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. That was, as always, an amazing webinar. There's lots of claps and hearts coming through. I think that people not only found it incredibly valuable, but were really, really grateful for you sharing your own very personal story, Debbie. We have, as we expected to, gone slightly over time. So I'm afraid we don't have time for the live Q&A this evening. However, the questions that have come up in the Q&A so far, and any more that you would like to pop into the Q&A, now we will come back to you separately. There will be a recording of this evening sent out in the coming days. We might have to edit it a bit just to get that slight text to at the beginning. Thank you again for your patience with that. So that will come out. Links to Debbie's socials and website will come to you. So anybody who wishes to follow up with her directly will be able to. Links to 10to2 will also come through. So anyone who wants to connect with us on the practical side of their job search, if you're not already registered, please do so. Experts in flexible and part-time working, and genuinely do want to see you succeed. So, you know, anything that we can do from the practical side of things to help fulfill you succeeding in your job search, we're more than happy to try and do our best. If you've enjoyed this evening, which from all of the little emojis, I think you have done, thank you. Please do go to our Facebook or recommend us on Google. Or if you have any feedback that you want to just email across, you can do so either direct to me or to Ruth, who you get all of your lovely emails from. And I think that that's everything that I need to cover. I always feel like an air stewardess. I need to be like, the exits are here and here. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and we do hope to hear from you very, very soon. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.